Welcome to Slumber Lore, your sanctuary for quiet journeys through time. Tonight, we step into the silent, shadowed halls of the ancient world's greatest libraries. We leave the modern noise behind and wander through aisles of forgotten knowledge, from the grand scrolls of Alexandria to the frozen papyri beneath the ash of Vesuvius. Find a comfortable position, close your eyes, listen to the steady rhythm of the rain and the warm crackle of our fire, and let the soft whispers of ancient scholars guide you into a deep, restful sleep. Where forgotten knowledge begins. Good evening. As the world outside slowly settles into silence, we begin a journey into the forgotten corners of history, where ancient ruins rest beneath quiet skies, and the echoes of lost civilizations still seem to linger in the darkness. Tonight, we search for treasures more valuable than gold, not jewels hidden inside royal vaults, but fragile scrolls, handwritten manuscripts, and remarkable ideas that once shaped the course of entire civilizations. Imagine a place where astronomers studied the heavens, physicians recorded new discoveries, mathematicians explored the mysteries of numbers, and poets captured thoughts that would outlive their own lifetimes. Now imagine that almost all of it has disappeared, not simply hidden from view, not merely abandoned by time, but lost so completely that only fragments remain to tell its story. Across thousands of years, libraries have risen and vanished. Some were damaged during wars, others slowly faded through neglect. A few may never have existed quite as later generations imagined, leaving behind mysteries that continue to fascinate historians today. Every lost library leaves us with the same quiet question. How much knowledge has humanity forgotten? How many discoveries, stories, and ideas disappeared before they could reach future generations? Long before printed books or universities, preserving knowledge demanded extraordinary patience. Every manuscript had to be copied by hand, one careful line after another, often requiring weeks or even months of dedicated work. A single scroll represented countless hours of labor. One small mistake by a skilled scribe could alter the meaning of an entire passage, making accuracy as valuable as knowledge itself. Knowledge never survived on its own. Someone had to write the words, someone had to copy them with care, someone had to protect them, believing that people centuries later would still find value in what they contain. In many ancient societies, writing itself was seen as something extraordinary. Words placed upon papyrus, clay, parchment, or bamboo could outlive the voices that first spoke them, preserving wisdom long after a lifetime had passed. Kings recognized the power of written knowledge. Priests carefully protected sacred texts, while philosophers preserved their discoveries, hoping that students they would never meet might one day continue their search for wisdom. Libraries became more than simple collections of books. They became physical memories of entire civilizations, preserving ideas, beliefs, discoveries, and stories that otherwise might have disappeared with the passing of time. Some libraries stood beside royal palaces, while others belonged to temples. There, priests carefully recorded religious ceremonies, royal events, and observations of the changing heavens with remarkable dedication. In Mesopotamia, scribes pressed wedge-shaped symbols into soft clay. Once dry beneath the sun, these tablets became surprisingly durable, allowing thousands of them to survive across many centuries. In Egypt, lightweight papyrus scrolls became the preferred way to preserve history, literature, science, and government records. They were easy to transport, yet far more vulnerable to moisture, insects, fire, and the slow passage of time. Preserving knowledge was always a race against nature. Even in peaceful times, moisture, insects, fading ink, and the passing of years quietly threatened every library and every precious manuscript. Empires expanded and empires collapsed. Languages evolved, religion transformed societies, and trade routes shifted. Every generation reshaped the world, often changing which knowledge will continue into the future. Not every manuscript could be copied forever. Each generation, often without realizing it, decided which stories deserved another life, while countless others slowly disappeared into silence. Many ancient authors wrote about books that no longer exist. Philosophers quoted earlier thinkers whose original works have vanished, leaving only faint echoes preserved in later writings. Sometimes an entire civilization is known through only a handful of surviving texts. The silence left behind by missing books can be just as powerful as the words that have endured across the centuries. Modern archaeology occasionally offers remarkable glimpses into this forgotten world. Beneath desert sands, ruined temples, fragments of ancient libraries continue to emerge, quietly reshaping our understanding of the past. Every recovered fragment tells a story. A single manuscript, no larger than a hand, can reveal forgotten names, lost traditions, or details that historians have searched for over generations. Yet, every exciting discovery carries a quiet reminder. For each manuscript that survives, countless others have almost certainly disappeared forever, leaving gaps that history may never fully recover. Historians generally agree that many forces shaped the survival of ancient literature. Climate, political stability, religious institutions, careful copying, and sometimes simple chance all played important roles. Knowledge rarely vanished in a single dramatic moment. More often, it faded quietly over generations, as aging manuscripts were left uncopied, forgotten on silent shelves, and eventually claimed by time itself. Popular culture often imagines towering flames consuming entire libraries in a single night. While fires did damage some collections, historians believe many famous losses were far more gradual and far more complex. The evidence is often incomplete. Ancient writers sometimes disagreed with one another, leaving historians to compare different accounts carefully in search of the most reliable interpretation. Across the centuries, historical events have often become intertwined with legend. Stories passed from one generation to another sometimes preserve truth, while also adding imagination along the way. Researchers continue comparing archaeological discoveries, surviving manuscripts, inscriptions, and historical records. Every new excavation has the potential to challenge long-held assumptions about the ancient world. Some mysteries may one day be solved, others may remain forever beyond our reach. As our journey continues, we now arrive at history's most famous library, Alexandria, where legend and evidence meet in one of the ancient world's greatest mysteries. The Library of Alexandria, Beyond the Legend. A gentle sea breeze drifted through the busy harbor of ancient Alexandria. Every day, ships arrived from distant lands carrying not only valuable goods, but also the ideas and knowledge of many different civilizations. Among the grain, spices, and precious cargo were handwritten scrolls. In Alexandria, books were often regarded as treasures, just as valuable as gold, for they carried knowledge that could outlive kingdoms. Founded by Alexander the Great in 331 BCE, Alexandria soon became one of the greatest cities of the ancient Mediterranean, where commerce, culture, and scholarship flourished together. The Ptolemaic rulers dreamed of creating something extraordinary. Their ambition was not simply to rule a powerful kingdom, but to build the greatest center of learning the world had ever known. From that remarkable vision emerged the Library of Alexandria, a place whose name would become almost synonymous with lost knowledge, inspiring curiosity and wonder for more than 2,000 years. Most historians believe the Library of Alexandria was established during the reign of Ptolemy I, or completed under his son, Ptolemy II. Their vision was extraordinary: to create the greatest center of learning in the ancient world. Their ambition reached far beyond Egypt. They hoped to gather every important book they could obtain, bringing together the wisdom of many civilizations into a single extraordinary collection. Several ancient writers describe an unusual custom. Ships arriving in Alexandria were said to surrender valuable manuscripts so royal scribes could create careful copies. Historians, however, continue to debate how consistently this practice was followed. According to later historical accounts, the library may sometimes have kept the original manuscripts while returning beautifully copied versions to their owners. Whether entirely accurate or not, the story reflects Alexandria's remarkable reputation. The surviving evidence is incomplete. Some descriptions were written centuries after the library's founding, reminding us that historians must carefully separate documented evidence from later tradition and enduring legend. The Library of Alexandria was closely associated with the Mausoleum, or Temple of the Muses. More than a library, it served as a center of learning where scholars lived, studied, taught, and exchanged ideas every day. Imagine quiet halls where philosophers debated ideas, physicians studied medical texts, mathematicians explored geometry, and visitors from many cultures shared knowledge gathered from across the ancient world. One of Alexandria's greatest achievements was its work of translation. Here, ideas crossed linguistic boundaries, allowing knowledge created in one culture to become accessible to readers in another. Among the most famous projects associated with Alexandria is the Greek translation of the Hebrew scriptures, commonly called the Septuagint. While historians continue to discuss its precise history, many agree that Alexandria played an important role in this remarkable work. Translation was more than exchanging words from one language to another. It allowed ideas to travel across civilizations, helping knowledge reach places and people far beyond where it first began. Among the library's most celebrated scholars was Eratosthenes. Using careful observation and geometry, he estimated the Earth's circumference with remarkable accuracy for his time. Another renowned scholar, Callimachus, created one of history's earliest known library catalogs. His work helped organize thousands of manuscripts, making knowledge easier to preserve and explore. Aristarchus of Samothrace devoted himself to comparing different copies of Homer's poems, helping establish methods of textual criticism that continue to influence scholarship even today. These scholars did far more than preserve old ideas. They expanded human understanding, building upon earlier discoveries and creating new knowledge that influenced generations to come. Within the Library of Alexandria, knowledge became increasingly connected. Ideas from different cultures met, influenced one another, and formed a richer understanding of the ancient world. How large was the Library of Alexandria? Ancient writers describe collections of astonishing size, but without a surviving catalog, historians can only estimate how many scrolls once filled its remarkable halls. Some ancient sources mention 400,000 scrolls. Others suggest even larger collections. Modern historians approach these impressive numbers carefully, recognizing that ancient writers sometimes used large figures symbolically. The library's exact location remains one of archaeology's greatest mysteries. Although important discoveries have been made throughout Alexandria, no site has been universally confirmed as the library itself. Paintings and films often portray the library as an immense palace of endless shelves. The real building may have appeared more modest, but its influence on the ancient world was no less extraordinary. Unlike modern libraries, Alexandria stored thousands of papyrus scrolls inside wooden cabinets and wall niches. Every manuscript demanded careful organization, protection, and continual maintenance to survive the passage of time. Papyrus was a fragile material. As scrolls aged, skilled scribes had to copy them onto fresh sheets. Without this continual effort, even the greatest library would slowly lose its treasured collection. Knowledge survived not because it was written once, but because each generation chose to preserve it again. Every copied manuscript became a bridge between the past and the future. This brings us to one of history's greatest questions. If Alexandria gathered so much knowledge, how did such a remarkable institution eventually disappear? The answer is more complex than legend suggests. Rather than one catastrophic event, many historians believe the library experienced a gradual decline shaped by political change, conflict, economic pressures, and the quiet decay of time itself. In the next chapter of our journey, we will explore the many endings of Alexandria, following the evidence through wars, emperors, and centuries of change to uncover one of history's most enduring mysteries. The many endings of Alexandria. History often tempts us to search for a single dramatic ending, one unforgettable night, one irreversible disaster, one moment when everything changed forever. For generations, many imagined the library of Alexandria disappearing in one enormous blaze. Yet historians increasingly believe its story unfolded far more slowly across many centuries rather than a single night. Instead of one ending, Alexandria may have experienced many. Its history was shaped by generations of political change, shifting priorities, and the gradual transformation of the ancient Mediterranean world. To understand the library's fate, we must first remember that it belonged to a living city. Alexandria was one of the greatest urban centers of the ancient world, constantly changing with the fortunes of its rulers. When the city prospered, scholarship flourished. When conflict reached its streets, institutions that depended upon royal support became increasingly vulnerable. The library's story was always tied to the city around it. One of the earliest events linked to the library took place in 48 BCE when Julius Caesar became involved in Egypt's civil war. During the conflict, fire spread through parts of Alexandria's busy harbor. Several ancient writers suggest that books or storage buildings containing scrolls may have been damaged during these fires. Yet, the surviving accounts differ, leaving historians with important questions rather than clear answers. Some ancient sources describe significant losses. Others remain completely silent. Because these accounts were written at different times, historians carefully compare them before reaching any conclusions. Evidence suggests that scholarly activity continued in Alexandria after Caesar's campaign. Several well-known intellectuals worked in the city during later decades, indicating that important collections likely still survived. History rarely ends in a single chapter. Rather than disappearing all at once, the library may have endured through changing empires, gradually shaped by the passage of time and shifting political fortunes. As Alexandria became part of the Roman Empire, it remained an important center of learning. Yet, like every institution, the library depended upon the priorities and support of those who governed the city. Libraries required constant care. Papyrus gradually wore out, buildings needed maintenance, and scribes had to copy fading manuscripts. Without continual investment, even great collections slowly began to diminish. Political priorities changed from one ruler to another. Economic pressures grew, beliefs evolved, and the city itself transformed. The library's history became intertwined with these gradual changes over many generations. Another important episode came during the reign of Emperor Aurelian in the late 3rd century. Fighting within Alexandria reportedly caused serious damage to parts of the royal quarter where the library may once have stood. Even here, certainty remains beyond our reach. Archaeological evidence cannot fully reveal what survived, what was lost, or how much of the library had already faded before these events unfolded. By the 4th century, Alexandria had entered a new era. Religious life was changing across the Roman Empire, and institutions connected with older traditions faced an increasingly uncertain future. In 391 CE, the Serapeum was destroyed following imperial decrees against certain pagan religious practices. The event marked a significant turning point in Alexandria's cultural and religious history. Many historians believe the Serapeum housed an important collection of books, sometimes described as a daughter library connected to the earlier Library of Alexandria. Its exact relationship, however, remains uncertain. If manuscripts were still housed there, some may have been lost during the temple's destruction. Others may have been removed beforehand, while some could have survived in entirely different collections. The evidence does not allow firm conclusions. Rather than certainty, Alexandria offers historians something equally valuable, a reminder that the past is often reconstructed from incomplete and sometimes conflicting sources. Centuries after Alexandria's decline, another story began to circulate. Medieval writers described the library's destruction during the Arab conquest of Egypt in the 7th century, creating one of history's most enduring legends. According to later accounts, books from the library were supposedly burned to heat Alexandria's bathhouses. Yet these stories were recorded many centuries after the conquest itself. Most modern historians approach this famous story with considerable skepticism. Contemporary sources from the 7th century do not describe such an event, making the tradition difficult to verify. Today, many researchers favor a different explanation. Instead of one dramatic destruction, they believe the library gradually declined through centuries of political change, conflict, reduced support, and ordinary decay. Civilizations rarely lose their memory all at once. More often, they slowly stop renewing it. One manuscript is left uncopied, then another, until silence gradually replaces the voices of the past. The story of Alexandria reminds us that preserving knowledge requires constant care. Without readers, scribes, and patrons, even the greatest collection could slowly disappear through ordinary neglect. Archaeologists continue searching beneath modern Alexandria. Each excavation reveals another small piece of the ancient city, though many questions remain hidden beneath layers of history and the modern landscape. Every inscription, every broken fragment, and every newly discovered manuscript helps scholars refine their understanding. Sometimes, even the smallest discovery can reshape long-held historical assumptions. Perhaps that is why Alexandria continues to fascinate us. It is more than the story of a lost building. It is a reminder of how fragile memory can be and how carefully history must be reconstructed. As we leave Alexandria behind, our journey continues eastward. to the great city of Nineveh, where another remarkable library preserved knowledge in an entirely different form on thousands of carefully inscribed clay tablets. Ashurbanipal's library, the king who collected the world. Long before the library of Alexandria became famous, another extraordinary center of knowledge stood in the heart of Mesopotamia. Our journey now brings us to the royal city of Nineveh. Unlike the libraries of Egypt, this collection held no papyrus scrolls. Instead, its shelves were filled with carefully inscribed clay tablets, each preserving knowledge pressed into soft earth. Each tablet was written in cuneiform, one of the world's earliest writing systems. Tiny wedge-shaped impressions carried stories, laws, scientific observations, and records across thousands of years. In the 7th century BCE, Nineveh ranked among the largest and most powerful cities on earth. At the center of its empire ruled a king, remembered not only for conquest but also for learning. His name was Ashurbanipal. Unlike many rulers of the ancient world, he presented himself as a king who valued reading, writing, and the careful preservation of knowledge. In royal inscriptions, Ashurbanipal claimed he had mastered the difficult art of reading and writing cuneiform. Historians cannot verify every detail, but many agree he showed an uncommon interest in scholarship. The king did not wait for knowledge to come to him. Officials across the empire were instructed to search for important texts and send copies of valuable writings to Nineveh. Priests and scribes copied rituals, medical knowledge, astronomical observations, dictionaries, and royal inscriptions. Each tablet became another piece of a growing collection intended to preserve centuries of learning. The library grew to include an extraordinary variety of subjects. It was not merely an archive of government records, but a vast collection reflecting many aspects of Mesopotamian civilization. Modern estimates suggest the royal library eventually contained more than 30,000 tablets and fragments, making it one of the greatest surviving archives from the ancient world. Many tablets reached the modern world only as scattered fragments. Even today, researchers continue matching broken pieces together, restoring texts that have remained incomplete for thousands of years. Unlike fragile papyrus, clay possessed an unexpected strength. When carefully preserved or even exposed to intense heat, it could survive far longer than almost anyone in the ancient world might have imagined. Ironically, the destruction of Nineveh would help preserve much of its library. The fires that consumed parts of the palace hardened many clay tablets instead of destroying them. The library was carefully organized. Tablets were grouped by subject, and many carried identifying notes that helped scholars locate specific works within the growing royal archive. Some tablets even included colophons, brief notes recording the title, the scribe, or the tablet's place within a larger series. They reveal how carefully knowledge was catalogued in the ancient Assyrian world. Some tablets carried written warnings against theft or damage, invoking the protection of the gods. These inscriptions remind us that knowledge was considered not only valuable but deeply sacred. The collection reflected an astonishing range of subjects. Astronomers recorded the heavens, physicians documented treatments, and scholars preserved mathematics, law, religion, and language for future generations. Night after night, Mesopotamian astronomers carefully observed the sky. Their records of eclipses and planetary movements became some of the longest continuous astronomical observations in history. Medical tablets describe symptoms, treatments, herbal remedies, and healing rituals. They reveal how ancient Mesopotamians combined practical observation with the spiritual beliefs of their time. The library of Ashurbanipal was far more than a royal archive. It preserved an entire civilization's intellectual world, offering future generations an extraordinary window into ancient Mesopotamian life. Among the library's greatest treasures was the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of humanity's oldest surviving literary masterpieces, preserved on clay tablets copied across many generations. The story follows the powerful king Gilgamesh and his loyal companion Enkidu, exploring friendship, courage, grief, and the universal human desire to understand mortality. As the story unfolds, Gilgamesh searches for immortality after experiencing profound loss. His journey becomes a timeless reflection on life, memory, and what truly endures beyond death. Although the poem existed long before Ashurbanipal's reign, his library preserved one of its most complete surviving versions. Without these careful copies, much of the epic might have been lost forever. The library looked both backward and forward. By preserving texts from earlier Sumerian and Babylonian traditions, it became a bridge connecting centuries of knowledge across the ancient Near East. Modern historians believe this was not a public library the way we understand today. It served the royal court, temple scholars, and educated officials who managed the affairs of the Assyrian Empire. In 612 BCE, a coalition led by the Babylonians and the Medes attacked Nineveh. After a long siege, the mighty Assyrian capital finally fell, bringing an end to one of history's greatest empires. In a remarkable twist of history, the intense heat baked many clay tablets into hardened ceramic. The city's destruction unexpectedly helped preserve his written knowledge beneath the ruins. More than 2,000 years later, archaeologists uncovered these remarkable tablets beneath the ruins of Nineveh, allowing long silent voices from ancient Mesopotamia to speak once again. As our journey continues, we leave Mesopotamia behind and travel west to the hilltop city of Pergamon, where another remarkable library would challenge Alexandria itself and help shape the future of the written word. The Library of Pergamon, a rival built on parchment. As the morning sun rose above western Anatolia, the hilltop city of Pergamon came alive. High upon its rocky acropolis stood one of the ancient world's most remarkable centers of culture, scholarship, and royal ambition. From its commanding heights, Pergamon overlooked fertile valleys and distant seas. It was a city where architecture, philosophy, medicine, and the arts flourished together beneath the clear Mediterranean sky. Hidden within this remarkable city stood a library whose reputation would eventually rival Alexandria or itself. Here, knowledge was collected, studied, and carefully preserved for future generations. Under King Eumenes II, Pergamon invested heavily in scholarship. His rulers believed that a kingdom's greatness could be measured not only by military power, but also by the wisdom it preserved. Although ancient sources offer different estimates of its size, historians agree that the library of Pergamon became one of the greatest intellectual centers of the Hellenistic world, attracting scholars from many regions. Within these quiet halls, scholars studied literature, philosophy, medicine, history, and science. Every manuscript represented countless hours of careful writing, copying, and preservation. Pergamon is closely associated with parchment, a durable writing material made from carefully prepared animal skins. It would eventually become one of history's most important surfaces for preserving knowledge. Unlike papyrus, parchment was stronger and more resistant to wear. Though often more expensive to produce, it proved especially valuable for manuscripts intended to survive frequent handling. Ancient writers later claimed that Pergamon and Alexandria competed to build the greatest library of their age. Whether every detail of that rivalry is accurate remains a subject of historical debate. Like Alexandria, Pergamon sought knowledge wherever it could be found. Manuscripts traveled across seas and mountains, connecting distant cultures through the shared pursuit of learning. Scholars at Pergamon did more than collect books. They compared different copies of important works, searching for copying mistakes and trying to preserve each author's original words as faithfully as possible. Every handwritten copy carried the possibility of small changes. Careful comparison helped scholars identify errors, preserving ancient literature with remarkable attention to detail. A great library required careful organization. Without catalogs and orderly storage, even the finest collection would become difficult to use, no matter how many manuscripts it contained. Pergamon and Alexandria are often remembered as rivals, yet scholars, ideas, and manuscripts also moved between them, reminding us that learning rarely respected political boundaries. Competition may have inspired both cities, but cooperation also played an important role. Across the ancient Mediterranean, knowledge continued to travel wherever curious minds were willing to share it with it. The Attalid kingdom eventually came to an end. After the death of King Attalus III, Pergamon passed under Roman control, beginning a new chapter in the library's uncertain history. A later tradition claims that Mark Antony presented Pergamon's library to Cleopatra as a royal gift. The story has fascinated historians for centuries, although its accuracy remains uncertain. Some ancient writers support this famous account, while others remain silent. Without surviving records to confirm the transfer, historians continue to examine the evidence with careful caution. Whether the collection was moved, divided, or gradually dispersed, its ultimate fate remains unknown. Like so many ancient libraries, Pergamon slowly disappeared into the uncertainties of history. Its decline was likely shaped by many familiar forces: political change, reduced support, ordinary decay, and the passing of centuries. The silence that followed came gradually, not all at once. Today, archaeologists continue to study the ruins of Pergamon. Excavations have revealed parts of the library complex, offering valuable clues about how this remarkable institution was designed. Stone wall niches discovered during excavations suggest where wooden shelves may once have stood. Though the manuscripts are gone, the architecture still hints at an organized world of learning. The shelves stand empty today, yet each vacant space reminds us of countless works that may once have rested there, preserving ideas that history can no longer fully recover. Pergamon reminds us that no great library existed in isolation. Across the Mediterranean, scholars, merchants, and travelers carried knowledge from one city to another, creating a remarkable network of learning. As night settles over Pergamon, one question quietly remains: how many voices were lost forever because no final copy was made? It is a mystery that echoes through every forgotten library in history. Every surviving manuscript represents countless others that have disappeared. For each text that reached the present, many more were almost certainly lost to time, chance, and change in history. The preservation of knowledge never depended upon a single city. Across the ancient world, countless scribes devoted their lives to copying texts, ensuring that at least part of humanity's memory endured. Ideas traveled alongside merchants, diplomats, and philosophers. The exchange of knowledge across seas and borders became one of the greatest strengths of the ancient Mediterranean world. Our journey now leaves Pergamon behind and follows the sea toward Rome and Italy. There, beneath the quiet shadow of a volcano, another extraordinary library waited for nearly 2,000 years. In the next chapter, we arrive at the villa of the Papyri in Herculaneum, where an unexpected disaster would preserve an ancient library in one of the most remarkable ways history has ever known. The villa of the Papyri, the library frozen by Vesuvius. On a peaceful summer morning in the year 79, life along the Bay of Naples unfolded as it had for generations. The sea was calm, the villages were lively, and Mount Vesuvius appeared quietly over the horizon. Merchants prepared for the day, fishermen tended their boats, and families moved through quiet streets. Nothing suggested that within hours the region would experience one of history's most famous natural disasters. To many who lived nearby, Vesuvius was simply another mountain. It had remained quiet for generations, giving little hint of the immense forces slowly gathering beneath its slopes. Then everything changed. A towering column of ash rose above the mountain, marking the beginning of an eruption that would forever transform the landscape and preserve an unexpected chapter of history. As ash drifted across the sky, the people of Herculaneum could not have known that their town, and one extraordinary library within it, would soon be sealed beneath volcanic deposits for nearly 2,000 years. Unlike nearby Pompeii, much of Herculaneum was overwhelmed by scorching pyroclastic flows. These fast-moving clouds of hot gas and volcanic material buried the town beneath deep layers of ash and stone. Among the grand residences of Herculaneum stood an elegant seaside estate, now known as the Villa of the Papyri. Hidden within its walls rested one of the ancient world's most remarkable private libraries. Inside the villa, shelves held hundreds of carefully arranged papyrus scrolls. Philosophy, literature, and thoughtful reflection filled these peaceful rooms overlooking the Mediterranean Sea. The intense heat transformed the papyrus in an unexpected way. Instead of burning completely to ash, many scrolls became carbonized, preserving them in a fragile but remarkable state. For nearly 2,000 years, the villa remained hidden beneath volcanic rock. The buried library waited in complete silence, unknown to the world, until archaeology finally uncovered its extraordinary secret. In the 18th century, excavations beneath Herculaneum revealed an extraordinary Roman villa. Among its statues and elegant rooms lay mysterious black cylinders that no one immediately recognized. At first glance, the scrolls looked like simple pieces of charcoal. Few realized they contained ancient writings that had survived one of history's most destructive volcanic eruptions. Early efforts to open the scrolls proved incredibly difficult. Some manuscripts were successfully unrolled, while others crumbled under the slightest pressure, reminding researchers how fragile these remarkable discoveries truly were. Most historians believe the villa belonged to a wealthy Roman family with a deep interest in philosophy. The library reflected a life devoted not only to comfort but also to thoughtful study. Many of the surviving texts are associated with the philosopher Philodemus, whose writings explored ethics, poetry, rhetoric, and the pursuit of a peaceful and thoughtful life. Epicurean philosophy saw a life of moderation, friendship, and freedom from unnecessary fear. Rather than pursuing endless luxury, it encouraged thoughtful reflection and lasting peace of mind. The library contained discussions of ethics, logic, poetry, and rhetoric. It was more than a collection of books. It was a place where ideas about human life were carefully preserved and explored. Imagine entering these peaceful rooms before the eruption. Beyond the open courtyards, the sea shimmered in the distance, while inside, generations of philosophical thought rested quietly upon wooden shelves. No one inside the villa could have imagined that the mountain beyond the horizon would soon become an unexpected guardian, preserving their library beneath layers of volcanic stone. Centuries later, conservators began the delicate work of studying these fragile scrolls. Every surviving manuscript offered another opportunity to recover voices that had remained silent for nearly 2,000 years. Today, researchers use advanced imaging techniques to study the scrolls without physically opening them. These methods help reveal hidden writing while reducing the risk of damaging the fragile papyrus. One promising technique, often called virtual unwrapping, allows computers to reconstruct the hidden layers inside sealed scrolls, giving scholars a chance to read texts that have remained closed since antiquity. Recent advances in imaging and computer analysis have helped researchers identify words and passages hidden within an open scrolls, opening an exciting new chapter in the study of ancient literature. Only part of the enormous villa has been explored. Much of the site remains buried, leaving archaeologists to wonder what discoveries may still rest beneath the volcanic layers. Some researchers have suggested that another library may still lie beneath the unexcavated sections of the villa. For now, however, this remains an intriguing possibility rather than an established historical fact. Large sections of the villa of the papyri remain buried beneath volcanic stone. Archaeologists continue to wonder what may still lie beyond the excavated rooms, though only future discoveries can provide reliable answers. Today, the surviving scrolls are preserved with extraordinary care. Their dark, fragile surfaces may appear simple, yet each one holds the possibility of recovering ideas that have remained hidden for nearly 2,000 years. Across the centuries, the responsibility has remained remarkably similar. Ancient scribes preserved knowledge by copying texts, while modern researchers protect them through conservation, imaging, and patient scientific study. Unlike many ancient libraries that disappeared completely, Herculaneum still holds its books. The challenge today is not finding them, but learning how to read the voices preserved inside them. Our journey now leaves the shores of Italy and follows the ancient Silk Roads eastward to Don Juan, where a hidden cave filled with thousands of manuscripts will remain sealed for centuries before returning to the light. As the ash gently settles over the silent villa of the papyri, our journey through these ancient halls of knowledge gently comes to a pause. The remaining chapters of forgotten wisdom will patiently wait for you in our next journey. Until then, let the quiet warmth of the fire bring peace to your mind. If you found comfort among these ancient scrolls, softly subscribe to Slumber Lore for more peaceful escapes. Rest now, sleep well, and good night.